Alright, everybody, it's time for Wild Speculation! And if you had headphones on, I'm sorry. Probably should have given you a warning. Alright, so we're going to start off our Wild Speculation with other things you could conceivably pull a chariot with. Because that really is the easiest thing to sort of shift speculation on. Now, of course, in our world, we used horses, because somebody realized horses are really, really good at pulling stuff, so... And we already had them domesticated, so no extra work, right? Well, let's start with an animal more people would probably be familiar with as far as fantasy goes, pulling chariots. Boars. Yes, if you were familiar at all with Warhammer Fantasy or several other universes that exist in similar rules, boars will pull chariots. This is totally possible in real life, by the way. Pigs get really big. At least some species of them do. They'll get to, if you let them grow all the way, 3 feet at the shoulder, give or take. And we're talking, they're like 800 to 900 pounds of 80% muscle. They are mostly muscle. Pigs look fat. They're really not. There's a fair amount of fat there, but there is a lot of muscle, because you need all that muscle to keep moving. There is downsides to having this, though you might consider some of them upsides. Boars are violent. Boars are extremely violent. You wouldn't want to use sows because, well, they're too skittish and you wouldn't want that. You'd want the violence. If you're going to use a pig, you're probably going to use a shock cavalry-style chariot, so scythed chariots. And you can probably guess I'm a little biased against scythed chariots. I think they're kind of stupid and get in the way of the chariot's primary function of being a mobile archery platform. But because it's also really cool and really heavy metal, boar chariots. So run them over. Just run people over with them. They're great for that. The problem is if you shoot a boar, it's liable to go ballistic. They just go nuts. They don't care. They don't give a crap about whatever's going on. They're just going to go murder whatever stabbed them and possibly go off in a blood frenzy. Now, if you happen to be an orc, that's probably an upside. Or if you happen to be a beastman, or some other particularly violent raidery type people. Yeah, that's probably a big upside, because that's terrifying. It's like, well, I can't shoot the animal now, because it's going to go ballistic and try to eat me. Unless I have like a big partisan or winged spear or something. Then I might do it, because I can keep it away from me. But yeah, boars, they could do it. They're smart enough. They're strong enough. Their endurance is less than stellar, but pigs grow pretty quick, so you could probably breed a far more durable, fatigue-resistant, there we go. We'll go with that. A fatigue-resistant pig. You know, they'd just be better at getting rid of their heat, like humans and dogs and several other species, because they're not great at that right now. So, boars, I give a C. I give them a C grade on chariot animals. They're not great. They're not terrible. Require some work. But if you really want to run people over with a murder chariot, yeah, you could do worse. Next up, and probably more common than boars, would be a wolf chariot, or similar large canine chariot. This has shown up in all sorts of things. I'm pretty sure this is also in Warhammer Fantasy. I know goblins have done this in other things, or at least have wagons, or orcs will ride really big wolves, or goblins will ride really big wolves. Canines are just not set up to have things on their backs. Pulling stuff? Oh yeah, they'll be all over that. They've done that. It's a working dog thing. Wolves would be excellent, or just canines in general. Stop saying wolves. Canines in general would be excellent for pulling chariots, because we have sled dogs. That's all it is. It's sled dogs scaled up to a military capacity. Now, they're going to eat like there's no tomorrow. They are going to eat all of the food on you, but holy crap, would that be awesome. Get like a giant Rottweiler, like a pair of them, and they pull your chariot for you. This is, again, melee chariot stuff. You want them to eat things for you, and by God, they'll do it. They'll probably get ranked higher than boars because they're more manageable. I will totally say that they are far more manageable than boars. So, B+, A-. I'd say they're pretty solid. Pretty good all around. So the next one's a bit less of a stretch. It's reindeer. You could totally use reindeer to pull chariots. They would work excellently for it because they're already used to pull sleighs, and sleighs are extremely similar to chariots. Biggest downside, they can't pull as much as a horse. But if you're using a reindeer, you don't have a horse as an option. So that's why you're using them. It'll work great. They will do exactly what you need them to do. They will run around, you can shoot from it, it will be excellent. I guess the downside is they aren't as fast as horses, and they can't go as far as horses, and you couldn't actually have them as close to each other as horses because their antlers would get tangled up, and that would really, really suck. But, on the whole, reindeer probably get a B. Give them a solid B grade on the chariot animal scale. They'll do what you need them to do. Next one, goats. Yeah, goats are going to be one that you're going to look at me and go, hey, what, goats? Yes, goats would totally work. You would probably need some bigger goats, so probably closer to bighorn sheep, or definitely larger than that, because otherwise you have to have like 4 abreast, and I don't like quadrigas. They look like a pain to turn, and I don't like that, because chariots are supposed to try to kind of be mobile. So, let's say you breed a dire goat. It's like 4-ish feet at the shoulder, give or take. I think that'd be great. They do have a problem in that they're stubborn as hell. Goats are stubborn and a little cranky. These can be upsides, though, because if they're stubborn and a little cranky, they want to go in that direction. And by God, they will go in that direction. And if you're in the way, they'll just lower their heads and run you over. So I'm probably going to put them up there with boars, maybe a little higher than that, maybe B-, C+. Goats will work. Now we get into the really goofy stuff, like tigers. Apparently, in the Roman Empire, they actually would do that on parade. They would actually pull chariots with, like, large predatory cats. That is heavy metal. That's what that is. That's awesome. I would love that. It'd be terrifying, because if they get pissy, they might eat you. But, hey, think about that. You could have, like, a lion. I'm sure if a lion would be particularly great. Tiger would probably be better. They're a little built more for endurance. Tigers would be awesome if you could train them properly. Or, just depending on the universe you're in, magically compel them to do what you want. Just get a nice druidy magic going on, and bam, you're perfectly trained now. Though, if anyone ever dispels that, that would suck. So, I'm going to lump all big cats together in kind of their own thing. C, they're pretty much right there with boars, maybe C- even, because they've got a lot of issues to deal with. Here's a fun one that most people aren't going to expect. Elephants. You could conceivably pull a, quote, chariot, end quote, with an elephant. Though I think it would look more like a siege tower. And it would clearly have to have 4 wheels. There's no way you could balance that sucker on 2. But you could basically have a small siege tower being pulled by elephants. And I think this was actually historically done. I do believe that these were used in sieges to, like, push machinery around. Because they're effectively bulldozers. It's great. So you can just make a big bunker, put, like, 20 guys in it, and just have an elephant pull it for you. I mean, think of the cover you would have. And then the elephant doesn't have a howdah on its back, so you can just armor plate that thing. You could have a legitimate tank. An honest-to-God tank in a fantasy setting. Why has no one done this? I am ashamed. I am ashamed that no one has done this. Someone get out there and do this. Right now. Someone go write a book. Do it. Alright, so let's shift to other uses for chariots. Not just goofy things being pulled by animals, because I could go on for that one for 20, 30 minutes. I mean, we could have flying ones, we could have ones on the ocean, we could have underground chariots. That would be weird. Underground chariots. Like burrowing chariots. That would be so odd. Totally awesome, though. Yep, there I go again. See, I could do this all day. I could just make up crap to pull chariots and just see how weird it gets. Like dinosaurs. Nope, not doing that. I might make a whole video dedicated to having dinosaurs pull chariots. That could be fun. If you want that, stick that in the comments. I will totally start babbling on about raptor chariots. So, other uses for chariots. Okay, well, honestly, chariots were kind of used for everything they should be used for. The only advantage fantasy settings give you is different animals to pull them with, and other wiggity things you can do with it. Like, if there's a type of wood, like in D&D, that's stronger than normal wood, like ironwood or bronze wood, which is as durable as the metals mentioned, you could make some really lightweight chariots because you're making it out of significantly thinner material. I mean, you're effectively taking the whole Egyptian concept of the Ferrari of chariots and just taking it to its illogical extreme. It'd be tiny. It'd have like little, nothing more than dowels holding the thing together, but it'd be as strong as having a metal frame. So, positives. It'd probably be about as light as wood, too. I think they usually are in fantasy, as far as magic wood goes. Magic wood. So you could do that. You could make the chariot out of really crazy things, make them insanely light. Or, since you can make it lighter, you can make it bigger. You can have a chariot that can hold like 5 dudes in it. And you could have one guy driving and 4 dudes just in there. So you could have, effectively, a troop transport. An honest-to-God troop transport with 5 people in it. So the driver's the dedicated driver, and then the other 4 guys will sit in there with crossbows, recurve bows maybe, and whoever's not shooting is just covering. Stick some spears and make some holders in there, stick some spears in the holders, put some pegs on the side, stick some, to have your shields hang off the side, so now you have armor on it. And then when you need to get them somewhere, well, they'll just sling their bows on their back or put their bows and holders in the chariot, and then pull out their spears, pull off their shields, and jump on off, and now you got some spearmen hanging out on the other side of the battlefield. Be amazing. Be awesome. So better troop transports, because now we have fantasy materials to work with. It's always great. The mobile artillery platform. This is kind of done, though I guess we could get really creative and mount, like, a Roman scorpion on it, or, you know, an arbalist, or other suitably massive as hell crossbow. That's not a full-on ballista yet. And then just drive around the battlefield just sniping things with it. And this is a fantasy world, so that would actually be very useful. You know, you're fighting giants, well, I'm just gonna go riding around in my chariot, and we're gonna shoot them with that, because it's a giant, and what else do I have that's gonna work that's not a very large crossbow? You could put a wizard in it. Put a wizard in there. It's their own personal wizard chariot. So they have their own bodyguard, maybe 2 bodyguards because it's big enough, have a driver, and then they'll just sit in there casting spells out of it. Just doing whatever they need to do. Throw fireballs. It's basically a mobile artillery platform now. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And honestly, this gets around a lot of problems with having wizards in battlefields. Namely, in most settings, they can't wear armor and other varying protective gear because it gets in the way of all those crazy hand gestures they need to do. It totally wouldn't, and we all know it. But now they're safe because they can move, and they're not on their own horse, so they don't have to busy, you know, riding it or learning how to ride a horse at all. They could literally just be sitting there on a stool that's bolted to the floor of the chariot. It would be excellent. Other things to do with chariots. Make them legitimate tanks. An honest-to-God tank. You could make a literal tank out of these things. You could enchant the wheels to drive by themselves. At that point, why are we even bothering here? Then we're just getting into weird Magitech tank stuff. But you could make it out of mithril. The side guards could be made out of mithril. And you could just put little firing slits in it, like a Hussite war wagon, and then just ride around on that. Now, if you have that much mithril, you're insanely rich, and now you're literally just showing off. But that'd be kind of cool. A metal chariot, and mithril's really light, so there's no reason it wouldn't work. Still probably be a little heavy, but, you know, hey, we're in a fantasy world. I could have, like, a dragon pulling my chariot, or something silly. Dragon chariots. There's a terrifying idea. So we got magical artillery, mundane artillery, troop transports, just better at it. What else could we do with it? We'll also go back to the insane flying chariot idea, but Air Force. A flying chariot would be better than riding on the back of a flying animal. I'll be entirely honest, like a chimera or a hippogriff or a pegasus, I wouldn't really want to ride on one of them. On top of the fact that I think I'd be getting in their way most of the time, because all I have to do is make the chariot float. If I can make the chariot float by itself, all they got to do is pull me forward, and they could probably pull that off. Because most of them are probably flying with magic anyway. So you could have a beautiful Air Force. Just fly over, just drop stuff on them. Or don't even use it in combat. You have flying chariots. It's the ultimate scout vehicle. So yeah, we need more chariots in fantasy. There's not enough chariots. Demand more chariots.